again, remember that we're dealing with a muddy environment here, a delta that's built by the river sediments. And that is a very different coastal area than you saw in Exxon Valdez, which is a rocky Arctic environment. And it's this muddy coast that inhabits these wetlands that are home to so many of the organisms that we've been describing. There's going to be a different approach as far as cleanup and recovery. And what that means is we will have to take a very low-tech approach to recovery and cleaning up. Much of what we will have to do is the oil will have to reside because any kind of physical impact or any kind of physical behavior following any kind of cleanup can actually do more harm than good. There will be examples of where in site-specific cases we'll use sediment applications, nutrients, or other remediation techniques to help reduce the acute effects or the damaging effects of oil. But to a large degree, what we'll have to focus on is a low-tech and letting nature try to recover itself from this catastrophe. At the shoreline, the trade-offs of preventing oil from coming on shore and limiting the impact on wetlands has been in the press quite a bit. As many of you know, we've lost our first line of defense. We've lost our barrier islands. Again, that's an impact that has occurred over 40 years that, because of the way we've mismanaged the river to protect this ecosystem. So now what we're trying to do in a last sort of gap effort is develop a sand berm system of moving sand and trying to rebuild what we can in a first line of defense. But the irony is that as that oil moves on the surface towards shore, the sand that we need to build our wetlands and the sediment to build our barrier islands is moving offshore. And it's that complete mismanagement of how we think about the delta and how nature provides these resources as we accumulate the risk of not only energy exploitation but navigation and flood control has to be put in some kind of coherent context so that we minimize these risks in the future. Again, remember, it's all about the plumbing of the Mississippi River that's at stake here, that we have to improve our capacity to deal with these events in the future. The river also provides an element of protection, and we're working on that as well. How can we move the river and distribute freshwater resources to actually keep the oil from penetrating farther inland in our areas? We have diversion structures, we have pumps, we have a lot of different features along this navigation system, and it's important that we use those in our capacity. As already been alluded to, this is also a very biological and physical and a chemical active time of the year. And I won't comment too much further on the fact that this is the young generation that's using a lot of these habitats for next year's life cycle. But also, as we also know, the physical system that we're dealing with here, the ocean environment itself, is also very active with the advent of hurricane season on the 1st of June. So we're dealing with a scenario, a worst case scenario right now, of a hurricane actually moving this oil further inland. And historically, we have a problem during hurricanes because salt moves as these storm waters move in from a hurricane. And this year, we will not only have to deal with salt in our freshwater environments, but also oil. Let me again wrap up by saying that these risks and the kinds of impacts and the challenges of trying to find ways to remediate from this catastrophe all come back to the fundamental aspects that we're trying to manage risk, and we're trying to provide for a working coast that has national interest and significance. Again, a quarter of the domestic energy supply. The largest navigation port in the world is located in this region, and one of the largest fisheries that is found in the lower 48 states is in this one region. So while we manage these risks of energy, of navigation, of flood control, and fisheries, we have to go back and find more coherent policies at the national level and at the state level that deal with multi-purpose assets of this region. Because any further exploration of energy without some more coherent approach to the importance of nature to what we do as a nation is going to put us right back into the bind that we find ourselves today. And may I add, as a final comment, that all of that becomes amplified to sea level rise and climate change. Everything we do to change the behavior of this system all the mistakes that we make today in the management of this system are amplified by sea level rise that's going to occur in the next 100 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Thank you all.